For decades, historians believe civilization began after farming. But what if a site 12,000 years old proves the exact opposite? Today, we uncover the mystery that is forcing scientists to rewrite the timeline of human history itself. High on a barren hill in southeastern Turkey lies a stone circle older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge, and older even than the earliest known human villages. A place carved by people who were not supposed to have tools, skills, or the organization to build anything monumental. Yet they did. This place is Göbekli Tepe, and its existence shatters everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. When we talk about Göbekli Tepe, the first thing that strikes every researcher, every historian, and every curious mind is the paradox of time. A paradox so extraordinary that it shakes the foundation of everything we thought we knew about the birth of civilization. Imagine traveling back 12,000 years to a world fresh out of the last ice age. Humanity is scattered in small groups, wandering the land, hunting animals, gathering wild plants, living day by day with no permanent settlements and no complex systems. According to everything we've ever been taught, this was a time before cities, before farming, before organized religion, before social structure, a time when humans were supposedly incapable of long-term planning, let alone constructing anything monumental. Yet, on a lonely hill in southeastern Turkey, this idea falls apart instantly. Standing before the towering stones of Göbekli Tepe, you immediately feel the weight of the paradox. These structures are not simple rocks thrown together by accident. They are enormous T-shaped pillars, some reaching 6 meters in height, carved with astonishing precision and decorated with animals that roamed the earth 12,000 years ago. Lions, foxes, vultures, snakes, each carving has intention, each placement has meaning. The design is purposeful, the architecture deliberate, and yet the people of that time were believed to have no agriculture, no pottery, no writing, no advanced tools. So the question that keeps echoing through time is, how? How did hunter-gatherers, who were constantly moving, who had no villages to gather in, manage to coordinate such a massive project? How did they cut these stones? How did they transport them? How did they lift them into place? These are not the achievements of small, scattered bands of people merely surviving. These are the achievements of minds capable of planning, cooperation, organization, and vision. Göbekli Tepe forces us to stare directly into this contradiction. It shouldn't exist, not in that era, not with those people, not with that level of technology. But it does, and that means our timeline is wrong. The paradox becomes even deeper when you look closely at the craftsmanship. The pillars are not rough or crude. They show smooth surfaces, sharp edges, and symmetrical shapes that require not just strength, but skill. Skill that we assume humans only developed thousands of years later. Archaeologists expected to find primitive tools, but what they found instead suggests a level of artistic understanding and architectural foresight no one predicted from this period. And that is where the paradox becomes almost unsettling. Because if these people could carve and shape giant stones with such accuracy, what else were they capable of? Then there is the cultural mystery. For humans to build something this monumental, they need a reason, a shared purpose, a belief powerful enough to unite and motivate people who were constantly on the move. But the standard theory of history says religion, ritual, and organized culture appeared only after people settled and began farming. Yet here is Göbekli Tepe, a ceremonial center older than agriculture itself, a place of gathering built before humans had permanent homes, a sacred site constructed before the first known village, a temple older than the concept of civilization. And that disrupts everything. Archaeologists now wonder whether the entire story of human progress has been reversed. Maybe humans didn't gather because of farming. Maybe humans began farming because they gathered. Because they needed food to support larger groups coming together for ritual, belief, or ceremony. Göbekli Tepe is forcing experts to rethink whether spirituality and shared ideas came before survival systems, whether the human mind advanced faster than the human lifestyle, whether our ancestors were far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. This paradox of time doesn't just challenge history, it dismantles the timeline we built. the assumptions we repeated, and the belief that we understood the pace of human evolution. Göbekli Tepe tells us that 12,000 years ago, humanity was not just surviving. It was thinking, planning, building, imagining, and creating foundations of culture long before we thought such things were even possible. When archaeologists first uncovered the towering stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe, they felt something was terribly off. Not because the stones were strange or the carvings were unfamiliar, but because everything about the site seemed to be built by people who, according to our current understanding, should never have been able to build anything like this at all. The moment you stand there, surrounded by massive circles of stone crafted with purpose and precision, the same question grips your mind. Who built it? And more importantly, how did they do it without cities, without metal, without farms, and without the complex societies we once believed were necessary for such monumental architecture? For decades, historians believed that human civilization developed slowly and predictably. First came small families, then small groups, then villages, then farming, and only after generations of settlement did humans supposedly acquire the organization required for large-scale building projects. But Göbekli Tepe throws that entire model into chaos, because the people who built it were not farmers, not city dwellers, not even settled communities. They were hunter-gatherers, mobile, nomadic, constantly searching for food. They lived in temporary camps, moved with the seasons, and followed herds across the landscape. These are not the people history associates with planning multi-ton constructions that required hundreds of workers, coordination, and shared purpose. Yet the evidence is undeniable. The builders of Göbekli Tepe lifted pillars weighing between 10 and 20 tons. They carved detailed artwork into limestone. They arranged circles with mathematical symmetry and deliberate alignment. This wasn't guesswork. This wasn't random. This was an organized effort carried out by a group far more capable than history allows them to be. And that's where the mystery deepens. If the builders were hunter-gatherers, then what does that say about them? These were people who had no written language, yet they communicated complex architectural plans. They had no rulers or kings, yet they coordinated labor on a massive scale. They had no permanent settlements, yet they gathered at one place for long stretches of time to create something larger than themselves. This suggests leadership, cooperation, and shared belief. It suggests structure. It suggests that these early humans were not primitive wanderers but thinkers, planners, visionaries driven by a purpose powerful enough to halt their nomadic lives. Archaeologists have found no evidence of nearby villages, no homes, no everyday living areas, no signs that the site was used for cooking, housing, or daily survival. That alone tells us something remarkable. The people who built Göbekli Tepe came here for one reason: to build, to gather, to create something sacred, monumental, or symbolic. But if they had no settled community, who taught them to cut stone? Who understood the shapes, the angles, the balance? Who told them where the stones should stand or how the circles should align? Who created the rituals, the meaning, the purpose behind these enormous structures? Every excavation brings more questions. How did these groups communicate across distances? How did they choose leaders or organizers? How did they feed the workforce? Hunter-gatherer groups usually consist of 20 to 40 individuals, far too few to manage a project of this scale. That means multiple groups must have come together, forming a temporary society much larger than any typical nomadic band of the era. This is perhaps the biggest revelation. Göbekli Tepe implies that humans gathered in large groups long before farming, long before permanent villages, long before the systems we believed were required to support large populations. This challenges the very definition of civilization. Maybe civilization didn't emerge because of survival. Maybe it emerged because of belief. Maybe humans gathered not because they needed food, but because they needed meaning. If so, then the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not simply anonymous tribes passing through history. They were the earliest known organizers of human culture, the first planners of large-scale architecture, the founders of communal effort, long before the word civilization ever existed. And if hunter-gatherers were capable of this, then we must reconsider everything we thought we knew about the limits and capabilities of early human societies. When you walk into Göbekli Tepe, the first thing that overwhelms you is the undeniable sense that these stones were not shaped by trial and error, or by crude hands striking rock with no understanding of technique. Instead, they carry the kind of refinement that suggests knowledge of stone, of force, of balance, of art, and of intention. This is where the mystery of forgotten technology begins to unfold, because the builders of Göbekli Tepe were people who, according to modern timelines, should not have had the skills to create anything close to this level of craftsmanship. Yet the pillars tell a different story, a story carved into stone long before history remembers any form of structured skill or advanced tools. Look closely at these pillars. Some of them stand 6 meters tall. Several weigh more than a fully grown elephant. They are carved from bedrock limestone with surfaces that appear unnaturally smooth, far beyond what we would expect from stone tools of that era. The edges are sharp, the corners are clean, the shapes are symmetrical. If you place your hand across the surface, it feels deliberate, calculated, and controlled. And the power of this observation cannot be overstated, because all of this comes from a time before metal tools existed, before wheels existed, before human societies had anything resembling workshops or dedicated craftsmen. It makes you wonder what techniques they used, what methods they discovered, and what kind of knowledge they possessed that never made it into the pages of history. The mystery deepens when you notice the carvings, the extraordinary depictions of animals, symbols, and motifs. These aren't random scratches. They are elegantly executed bas-reliefs, carved with depth, shading, and proportion. The artists understood anatomy, posture, and movement. Every animal seems alive, frozen in a moment of action. Their creators clearly had not just the strength to shape massive stones, but the creativity and understanding required to breathe life into them. And this raises a question that grows heavier the deeper you dive. How does such sophisticated artistic expression emerge in a society that supposedly had no complex tools, no settled culture, no infrastructure to support artisans? Even more puzzling is the engineering behind the arrangement of these stones. They weren't simply carved and dropped into place. They were positioned with accuracy. The circles follow patterns. The central pillars were raised first, then supported by smaller stones placed around them. Some researchers even believe the structures may have astronomical alignments, though the debate continues. But alignment or not, the level of planning is undeniable. The builders had to imagine the layout before carving the stones. They had to shape each pillar according to its role in the structure. They had to transport these stones over distances and lift them upright in pits carved precisely to hold them. And remember, all of this happened 6,000 years before Stonehenge, 7,000 years before the pyramids, long before the idea of engineering had even emerged. What makes it even more astonishing is what archaeologists did not find at Göbekli Tepe. There were no traces of workshops, no tools in large quantities, no evidence of a community that lived on site. This suggests that these people carried their tools with them, or perhaps that their tools were made of materials that did not survive the passage of time. It also suggests a mobile society capable of transporting knowledge across distances without books, without writing, without recorded instructions. They carried knowledge in their minds. They passed technique through demonstration, memory, and tradition. They taught each other how to shape stone in ways that left no clear trace behind. This forgotten technology forces us to ask questions that challenge scientific comfort zones. Did the people of this era understand stone in ways we no longer do? Did they use early forms of leverage, wooden frames, ropes, or other techniques that left no archaeological footprint? Did they develop methods of smoothing and shaping limestone that modern researchers have yet to reconstruct? And if they did, what else might they have known that has completely vanished from human history? This site suggests that human ingenuity did not suddenly appear with farming or cities. It existed long before, hidden in the hands of nomadic builders who mastered techniques that somehow disappeared long before recorded civilization began. When you stand inside one of the stone circles of Göbekli Tepe, you instantly feel that this place is not ordinary. It doesn't carry the signs of daily life: no trash, no cooking remnants, no homes, no traces of people living or sleeping here. Instead, it gives off the unmistakable sense of purpose, as if every stone, every carving, every placement was part of an intentional design meant for something far greater than simple survival. And that is where the mystery begins to twist itself deeper into the story. What exactly was Göbekli Tepe for? If it wasn't a village, if it wasn't a fortress, if it wasn't a home, then why did ancient people, nomadic people, come here? What drew them to this hilltop 12,000 years ago? What experience were they seeking that made them return again and again to build these massive circles of stone? The most widely accepted idea is that Göbekli Tepe was a sacred site, possibly the world's first temple ever built by human hands. If that is true, then it predates the oldest known religious monuments by thousands of years. But here's the strange part. Temples are usually built after societies become settled and structured. Göbekli Tepe flips that idea upside down. Instead of religion forming after civilization, this site suggests that religion might have come first. That maybe belief, ritual, or spirituality was powerful enough to bring scattered groups together, powerful enough to change how humans lived, powerful enough to reshape the entire trajectory of civilization. Still, even calling it a temple doesn't fully explain everything. A temple usually has altars, offerings, statues, or clear evidence of rituals. But Göbekli Tepe hides those clues carefully. What it does offer are symbols: foxes, lions, snakes, vultures, animals carved deeply into the stones, perhaps representing spirits, guardians, or cosmic forces. Many archaeologists believe these carvings weren't merely decorative but symbolic, possibly telling stories of death, rebirth, protection, or the cycles of nature. The vultures, for example, are often associated with sky burials or rituals related to the spirit's passage. The foxes appear repeatedly, perhaps indicating a cultural symbol we no longer understand. Everything here feels intentional, but the meaning remains sealed behind the silence of prehistory. There's also a theory that Göbekli Tepe might have been an astronomical site, a place where early humans observed the heavens. Some researchers speculate that the arrangement of pillars might align with stars or mark certain celestial events. If true, that would mean humans were studying the sky and tracking cosmic patterns far earlier than we ever imagined. Imagine hunter-gatherers gathering here not just for rituals, but to watch the movement of stars, to predict seasons, to understand the cycles of the earth and sky. If this idea holds any truth, Göbekli Tepe may have been an ancient center of knowledge, prehistoric observatory where wisdom was passed from generation to generation. But the site could also have been something even more complex, something that doesn't fit neatly into the categories we've created. Perhaps it was a gathering place where multiple tribes came together once or twice a year. A place of bonding, celebration, storytelling, and shared identity. A place where alliances were made, marriages arranged, knowledge exchanged. It may have served as a center of unity, a place where scattered groups reaffirmed their connection to one another through ritual or ceremony. In this sense, Göbekli Tepe might not have been a temple to a god, but a temple to the human experience itself. And then there's the theory that Göbekli Tepe represents the very moment when humans shifted from purely survival-driven lives to meaning-driven lives. That maybe this place marks the birth of culture, the birth of shared ideas, the moment humans looked beyond immediate needs and began thinking about something larger, something eternal, something sacred. Whatever its purpose was, one thing is clear: it was not ordinary. People traveled here intentionally. They were built with purpose. They carved symbols that meant something profound to them. And they returned for centuries, adding new layers, new stones, new meanings. This was not just a construction site. It was a place of gathering, a place of connection, a place that held significance powerful enough to draw humanity into a new cone of the strangest and most unsettling discoveries at Göbekli Tepe ISN. Key the enormous pillars or the mysterious carvings? It's what happened long after the site was built, after generations of people returned to this sacred hill, after rituals and gatherings shaped the spiritual life of those early humans. The true shock comes not from the creation of Göbekli Tepe, but from its burial. Because one day, for reasons still unknown, The very people who built this place made an extraordinary decision. They covered it. They buried the entire site under tons of soil, stone, and debris, and they did it deliberately, not by accident. Not by natural disaster, but by choice. This alone opens one of the deepest mysteries in archaeology. Why would a society invest centuries of effort building such massive structures, carving artwork with incredible precision, and gathering here for countless rituals only to suddenly decide to hide everything beneath the earth? What forces them to cover their greatest achievement? What moment, what belief, what event pushes an entire community to fill in a masterpiece and seal it away from the world? When archaeologists first uncovered this hidden detail, they couldn't believe it. It made no sense. In most ancient sites, abandonment happens naturally. Sand covers ruins. Plants grow over fallen stones. Time destroys what humans leave behind. But Göbekli Tepe was not abandoned in that way. Every layer of soil appears intentionally placed. Every cavity was filled carefully. It was a deliberate burial, almost like a ritual in itself, as if the site was being protected, preserved, or perhaps retired with respect. Some researchers suggest the burial might have been ceremonial, a final closing of the site after it had served its purpose for centuries. Perhaps the people who built Göbekli Tepe believed their rituals had ended. Maybe the world had changed. Maybe a new belief system had replaced the old one. And as part of that transformation, they closed the chapter permanently by burying the sacred structures, ensuring that no one would defile them or alter them in the future. But others proposed something far more intriguing. They believed the builders might have feared a threat that could destroy or misuse the site. If so, the burial could have been an act of protection, as if safeguarding sacred knowledge or powerful symbolism from forces unknown. There are even theories that the site was buried by multiple generations, slowly filled in over time as part of a ritual process, marking a transition in human spiritual evolution. Another possibility dives deeper into psychological territory. Perhaps the society that built Göbekli Tepe underwent a significant cultural shift. Maybe new ideas emerged that challenged the old traditions. Maybe old rituals lost their meaning. And when a culture changes at its core, it sometimes feels compelled to physically bury its past. In this sense, Göbekli Tepe might represent the world's first ceremonial act of closing an era not by destruction, but by careful preservation. What makes the mystery even more haunting is that the burial ultimately protected the site better than anything else could have. If Göbekli Tepe had been left exposed, erosion, weather, and human activity might have destroyed it long ago. Instead, it was sealed beneath the ground, frozen in time for more than 10,000 years. It's almost as if the builders intended for it to be discovered far in the future, as though they knew that someday people would need to find it. As though this message from prehistory was meant to sleep until humanity reached a point where it could begin to understand its meaning. And yet, the deliberate burial raises even more questions that refuse to be answered. Who organized the process? How long did it take? Why didn't they dismantle the stones? Why did they choose burial instead of destruction? Every detail suggests intention, not abandonment. Every layer hints at ceremony, not neglect. This was not a forgotten place. It was carefully sealed by hands that understood its importance. The act of burying Göbekli Tepe stands as one of the greatest archaeological puzzles ever discovered. A final gesture made by people we know almost nothing about, at a time when human civilization was still thousands of years away from writing, cities, and recorded history. Yet their decision to cover their creation leaves behind a whisper of intention, a silent message wrapped in mystery, telling us that the story of Göbekli Tepe is far more complex, far more emotional, and far more deliberate than anyone ever expected after of its story. When we step back and look at the bigger picture of Göbekli Tepe, one fact becomes undeniably clear. This site doesn't just challenge archaeology. It challenges the very story we tell ourselves about human history. For centuries, historians and scientists have operated under a specific timeline, a comfortable narrative that humans gradually evolved from hunter-gatherers to farmers, from simple camps to villages, from villages to cities, and only then to complex societies capable of building temples, creating art, and developing religion. But Göbekli Tepe shatters that entire sequence. Here, we find massive stone circles, intricate carvings, and carefully planned structures, all built by people who, according to traditional models, should not have been able to do any of it. This forces us to confront an extraordinary possibility that our understanding of the origins of civilization is fundamentally flawed. The implications are profound. Göbekli Tepe suggests that humans may have come together for reasons other than survival, that the spark of civilization may not have been born from agriculture or necessity, but from ideas, belief, and shared purpose. For thousands of years, the narrative has been that humans first tamed the land, grew food, built homes, and then with security in place, they could afford rituals, religion, and art. But this site flips that idea on its head. Here, belief may have come first. Spirituality may have been the catalyst that allowed humans to organize, plan, and create large-scale structures. Gathering, not survival, could have been the original driver of societal complexity. This changes the way we see the very nature of early humans. The people who built Göbekli Tepe were not simple creatures responding only to immediate needs. They were thinkers, organizers, and visionaries. They had the ability to plan far into the future, coordinate large groups, and invest decades of labor into structures that were not for shelter, not for food, but for meaning. And that suggests a cognitive and cultural sophistication we rarely attribute to pre-agricultural humans. They weren't just surviving, they were conceptualizing, imagining, and creating a shared experience that transcended day-to-day life. This elevates the human story far earlier than we thought possible, and it doesn't stop at society. Göbekli Tepe also forces us to reconsider the origins of religion itself. If humans were gathering at this site to perform rituals, to carve symbols, and to celebrate shared beliefs, then religion didn't emerge as a byproduct of civilization. It may have been civilization's first blueprint. The carvings of lions, snakes, vultures, and other animals hint at a symbolic system, a way of understanding the world, life, death, and the universe. These early spiritual ideas may have been the glue that allowed disparate hunter-gatherer groups to unite, to collaborate, and to achieve what had been previously thought impossible. In a sense, Göbekli Tepe might represent the birth of culture itself, the first time humans collectively expressed their consciousness in physical form, before the invention of writing, before cities, before formal governments. Even technology, which we assume evolves linearly, takes on a new context. The precision of the carvings, the planning of the circles, the alignment of the stones, all suggest that knowledge existed far earlier than we imagined. Skills we assumed only emerged in settled agricultural communities were being applied by mobile, hunter-gatherers who defied the constraints of their environment. And the very act of burying the site centuries later suggests a cultural awareness that hints at memory, preservation, and intentionality on a scale that seems almost modern. They weren't just building, they were creating history, even if they could not record it with words. Ultimately, Göbekli Tepe forces us to question what it really means to be human, to organize, and to create. It challenges the traditional sequence of development and asks us to consider that human ingenuity, collaboration, and belief may have existed far earlier than we ever thought. Civilization may not have begun with food, cities, or kings. It may have begun with ideas, rituals, and collective imagination. Humanity's journey was not a straight path of survival and progress. It was already complicated, sophisticated, and deeply cultural. At a Göbekli Tepe is more than just a collection of stones on a hill. It is a silent testament to human ingenuity, imagination, and belief that existed long before history ever recorded it. Every pillar, every carving, every carefully buried layer challenges everything we thought we knew about our ancestors. It tells a story of a people who were capable of vision, organization, and creativity far earlier than we imagined, people who built not for survival, but for meaning. This 12,000-year-old site forces us to rethink the origins of civilization, religion, and human culture itself. It reminds us that history is not fixed, that our understanding of the past can change with every new discovery, and that the story of humanity is far more mysterious, profound, and inspiring than we have ever dared to imagine. Moment when we assumed it was still primitive.